So guys, once again, if you can, please subscribe to the channel and please hit the like button on this video. So guys, in this next news story, a man who goes by the name of Rida Kazem, who lost a leg in a crash, has today been jailed for causing death by dangerous driving. He was driving a Range Rover SVR and he slammed at high speed into a Tesla garage, which ended up on the tracks of a London Underground station. And in the process of that, it left beautician Yagmur Ozden dead after she was ejected from the car at 110 miles per hour. Just want to say rest in peace, Ms. Ozden, and my condolences go out to your family. CCTV footage has been released and it was played at the Crown Court during the sentencing of the 24-year-old. The black Range Rover can be seen as it slams into a metal fence before tearing through a glass advertising hoarding. Debris from the crash flies in all directions amid a shower of sparks. Another video showed the Range Rover approaching the garage at high speed before leaving the road, and a third video picks out the headlights of the car as it speeds along the A40. The vehicle ended up somersaulting over the ticket office of the Park Royal tube station and landing on the rail tracks. These videos are shown in court and it left many people distressed and in tears, and a previous video of the crash came from a dash cam on a Tesla which was charged. So the family of Miss Ozden have blasted the sentence of the boy race who actually smiled as he was jailed for crashing his Range Rover. Kazem, who was showing off to his two passengers when he crashed his car, was jailed for 7.5 years, as I've stated, and following his sentencing, Miss Ozden's sister raged at the British justice system and said the sentence was not long enough. She said, "This is so painful for us. What is wrong with British justice? He has killed my sister and he will be out in a few years." Miss Ozden's daughter, who is now living with the grandmother, said the sentencing doesn't give my mum any justice. She said, "It's really offensive and it didn't show he was sorry and there was no respect and the outcome was horrible and I don't really like the sentence. Hopefully my mum does get justice someday." So Kazem was driving the Range Rover Sport SVR before he lost control. Also hurt in the crash was the driver's front seat passenger, who survived but suffered a broken arm and leg. Kazem, the driver, whose left leg was amputated below the knee following the crash, had been driving the two women home from a night out in the early hours of August the 22nd. The vehicle hit a stationary Tesla occupied by a taxi driver who was charging the car before the wreckage ended up on the tracks at the Park Royal tube station. Judge Martin Edmonds KC jailed Kazem for 7.5 years after he pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and causing injury by dangerous driving. He's going to serve at least 2/3 of his sentence and was also banned from driving for more than 12 years. Jailing the 24-year-old, Judge Edmonds told Kazem he was responsible for an unnecessary tragedy. He told Kazem he had showed no real remorse and had even attempted to shift his blame on the victim, suggesting that one of the two women to have been driving. He said, "I have no doubt that you were showing off to your passengers, both showing off your powerful car, but also what you thought of as your superior driving skills. What is all too clear is that your skills were wholly inadequate." The judge said Kazem, who was not wearing a seatbelt and was thrown from the vehicle before it landed on the tracks, had been guilty of persistent and deliberate bad driving. He told the driver, who was in coma for almost a month, the speed and violence of this simply horrific crash reduced the car to a mangled heap of metal. The suggestion that you made that because of your previous driving disqualifications you would not knowingly have exceeded the speed limit is clear nonsense. The judge also said the most grievous loss was to the 13-year-old daughter of Ms. Ozden, whose victim impact statement was read to court. It was a 3-minute compilation of CCTV showing the Range Rover speeding along the road shortly before it clipped a curb and become airborne, and it was shown to the court before the judge passed sentence. Kazem had been in custody since January amid fears by police that his family were attempting to help him flee the country on a private jet. Miss Ozden's daughter said she's in pain every day and wants justice for her mother. She said, "I'm still in shock. I miss Mum. She was my best friend and I miss the simple things like cooking and going to the park with her. We had our favourite song and I can never listen to that now. It is sad that I cannot say goodbye." And she added, "Even if he gets a life sentence, it doesn't change anything. I want him to go to prison for a long time so that this cannot happen to anyone else." And in a statement read by the prosecuting barrister, the other woman in the car said she had suffered depression since the accident and had considered taking her own life. And she said, "I no longer feel like a whole person." And the taxi driver who was charging his Tesla when the Range Rover crashed through the garage said he's in pain every day and feared he was going to die when he was struck by glass and other debris. The court was told that in pre-sentence report and a psychological reports, Kazem said he might not have been driving the car at the time of the accident and he had no recollection of it. So the defense barrister, David Rose, told the court Kazem had wished he had been killed in that crash rather than the young woman. The victim should decide what sentence he should get, an idea which was rejected by the court. The defense solicitor said he knows the gravity of this case. This is a human tragedy for all those affected. All of them will leave court today with a sense of loss, pain and suffering. No sentence will remove the pain and loss. And yet Kazem, who worked for a family jewellery business and had been accepted onto a university law course, accepts through his guilty plea that he was the driver. So guys, real tragic story there. Once again, I just want to say rest in peace, Miss Ozden, and my condolences go out to your family. So guys, in this next story, a man stormed into his wife's home and murdered her whilst their children were at school. Yasmin Begum is 40, was found collapsed at her home in Bethnal Green in East London in March last year by school staff after she failed to pick up her kids. The mum was stabbed several times and multiple items, including a bank card and the jewellery she was wearing, had been taken. Yesterday, Kuyum Mia, who's 41, was found guilty of a murder. The pair had been separated for about a year, and Mia was captured on CCTV near Yasmin's address before entering the flat. He was seen heading north from Yasmin's address carrying a green and yellow bag for life, which appeared full. Mia dumped the bag in a rubbish bin, and when it was later recovered, it had clothing stained with Yasmin's blood. He then used her bank card and withdrew £800 and 2 days later pawned 2 items of jewellery for about £200. Detectives found documentation inside Yasmin's home confirming divorce proceedings were underway, and Mia was arrested in Plaistow a few days later. I just want to say rest in peace, Miss Begum, and my condolences go out to your family. Police found a trainer with Yasmin's blood on it at his home as well as an item that had been stolen from her house. Mia had pleaded guilty at an early hearing to theft and 2 counts of fraud, and he was remanded in custody ahead of sentencing at the same court, which is going to happen in the middle of June. Speaking on behalf of Yasmin's family, her brother said, "Firstly, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the detectives who worked so tirelessly to collect the evidence that caught Yasmin's killer. Without their efforts, he may have gone on to put another family through this nightmare." Today, an evil creature was found guilty of murder, fraud and burglary, a creature that should never be allowed to walk the streets again. He chooses to murder a daughter, a mother and a sister for no reason other than financial gain. He values life at £800 as that is what he stole. He broke into our sister's home and brutally murdered her and then robbed her. We hope that he gets reminded every day of his measly existence, how evil he is and what awaits him in the next life. So Detective Chief Inspector Larry Smith of the Met Specialist Crime Command led the investigation, said Kuyum Mia is a violent coward who ambushed Yasmin in her own home and brutally attacked her. She did not stand a chance. When Mia was motivated by jealousy due to the impending divorce or greed due to his callous actions in withdrawing cash and pawning jewellery immediately after the murder remains unclear, as he did not provide any straight answers during his police interviews. Instead, he refused to own up to his actions, continually lying and then changing his story when concrete evidence disproved his version of events. Yasmin was a young mother who was about to embark on a new chapter in her life away from Mia. However, she was denied that opportunity in the most violent of circumstances. Mia has rightfully been found guilty of murder and will now face the consequences of his actions, and I hope his conviction provides some small solace to Yasmin's family and those that knew. So guys, these are a couple of stories coming from the streets of the UK. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.